Hey, filmmakers, I'm Nick Bodmer.
I'm Griffin Hammond, and today, is it possible to replicate the look of this podcast on a budget and without any real filmmaking skill?
Well, if you're trying to replicate this half, I would say yes.
So
this guy over here is a little better than me. I pointed
thank
at
you very much.
By the way, since you can't see me. Hopefully I'm on the right side. You might have to flip me. I don't know. Wherever he is.
So that's I kind of want to start with that idea that like there's a correct direction on our podcast, right?
I believe so. I'm usually on the left.
Yeah. And I guess
Right?
I'm on the right.
Correct? Yeah. Yeah.
And the whole idea of that is just that it's kind of like you would shoot a dialogue scene in a movie. One character looks to one side of the camera, one character looks to the other side of the camera. When you cut between them, it gives you this nice, like, they're actually together sort of feeling.
When we are not even close to together.
Right. I'm in New York, you're in Las Vegas. I recently, a client of mine saw, they were asking about how to do something like that. And I showed them our podcast, Hey.filmmakers.
Good.
And
Good.
they really liked the look of that. This like split screen, but we're looking at each other and it feels very intimate, I guess.
Ooh.
And we're also doing the AirPod trick.
This trick? I turned and showed my AirPods. Speaking of, did you see the new AirPods Pro launched today?
Yes, I did see that. It looks like they're shipping
important.
immediately.
Keep
Are you
going.
getting those?
No, I'm not. I have the
Okay.
second-gen AirPods that I love, and I don't need noise canceling because I have to be able to hear my children scream.
Yeah. Well, and
When
arguably
something's
we should buy just one pair of AirPods and then share them.
Split them. Yes, that'd be perfect.
So I think for some people that's kind of a mind-blowing idea. In fact, we get that question a lot about our podcast, like what software are we using to do this crazy split screen thing? And it's not any
It's
special
the magic
software.
of video editing.
Yeah, it's just you send me your footage. But this is so much more preferable than a Skype conversation where we'd have lag and we're looking into the camera. There's so many things that we do that are kind of special for this look that I think works.
Sure.
And so that's what the client really likes. And they want to know if they can replicate that. They want me to kind of build like a ready out-of-the-box option for building this kind of look. And so that's kind of the thought exercise I want to go through today is I haven't really thought about this yet, and it sounds daunting to me, the idea of almost like franchising this, like letting other people
So I get
do
a
this
cut, it
look.
sounds like, right?
Right.
Of this client's fee. Fantastic.
But
okay,
for us, it
so
works
let's go
'cause
through
we
the
are
elements.
a filmmaking podcast, and so we know how to use cameras. But my fear is there something I can do to create all of this that someone who doesn't necessarily have filmmaking skills can turn on and make it work?
Podcast in a box.
Yeah.
Well, what's good and bad is everything is very discreet, right? Like every little step can almost be done 5 different ways depending on what they have available to them, and then it all gets assembled at the end. So I guess the first step would be identifying what are all those pieces that we need.
Yeah. So let's talk about what makes this look the way it is. What are some of the things we're using?
Okay.
So like, what's your camera?
So I've got the Sony a7 III.
Which is full
Right
frame.
here. Full frame. I've got an f2.8 prime lens on it, 24 millimeter.
And I'm using a GH5S right now, and it's a crop sensor camera, but it has an f1.4 lens on it. So really, even though my sensor's smaller than yours, the lenses can accomplish about the same shallowness in the background if we want it. I'm actually open to, right now I'm at f2. What are you at right now?
I'm at f2.8. I open it all
So
the
you're
way up.
wide open. You're getting the blurriest background you can. My background's not that far behind me. It's like 4 or 5 feet behind me. It's a little bit out of focus. What does yours look like?
Yeah, a little bit out of focus. Like you can tell there's books on my bookshelf, and I don't think you can read the titles. So
Okay. So this is my first concern is like the look that we've come up with kind of a little bit of bokeh in the background. You wouldn't be able to replicate that with an iPhone sensor.
no.
Unless
Certainly
like,
not.
can you shoot portrait mode
Not in video.
In video? No. Okay.
No.
Even on the new cameras?
Even on the new cameras, yeah.
Yeah. So iPhones are out the window. That kind of, I'd almost be tempted to go with GoPros or something because they're already wide angle. We're kind of using, like I'm using a 12 millimeter lens on a crop sensor. That's pretty wide. What is yours?
24 on a full frame.
Yeah. So same thing. We have kind of this like we're close to the camera, kind of distorted wide angle look, which seems to work well for split screen because we're already like cropping the image kind of.
But, I mean, let's go back to the iPhone. Is the bokeh really super critical? Like, I think you get a pretty professional look with a tripod-mounted iPhone.
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of the trade-off here is we have to figure out, like, right now I'm in all manual, so I'm controlling my focus, I'm controlling my white balance, my ISO, everything. I even have an ND filter on the lens to control exactly what my exposure is going to be. But I can't ask someone to do all those things if they're not, if you know, this is like a sports podcast and that's what they're experts in.
Right.
And so it does have to be something that you can just turn on and you just know it's going to be in focus all the time.
Yep. Which, you know, I know you're going to cringe. I'm using autofocus and auto white balance right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. The Sony does so well with autofocus that I prefer it.
So maybe there are some like, I mean, is there an argument for maybe a little bit better than an iPhone, or maybe just to have a dedicated thing that sits on the tripod and stays there for the person?
Yeah,
like,
I think so.
Is there some basic micro four thirds camera or something that has?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend the Sony that I have because of the 30-minute recording limit, which is a real pain in the butt.
Yeah.
That immediately pushes me back to Panasonic. If I weren't doing photos primarily with this camera, I would still be on a Panasonic camera for this. So what was the camera I had before? The
G85, right?
G85. Yeah. Do they have a new version of that, or is that still the current?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they've gone higher than that. But yeah, something like that could work, but then I mean there's still just so many features there. Like do you just pop it into intelligent auto mode and
hit record? Yeah, I think you could. I do.
Yeah. And maybe just put like a really basic, like one of those small primes, like the 15 millimeter or something. I don't
exactly.
know.
Yeah, you wouldn't want the kit lens that's not going to be wide enough. So, especially if you're sitting at a desk and you got the camera on the desk like we do.
Yeah. So another way you could use the iPhone, but I'm thinking the iPhone could be good because sometimes this might be. I mean, we're very mobile. Last episode, I was in France, and I travel with filmmaking gear because that's what I do. But if someone else wanted to do this and they're traveling, they may not want to bring a whole camera. So maybe the iPhone would be the thing. But one thing I'm wondering is we use the iPhone to actually talk. We're on a FaceTime audio call right now. And so the question is, can you shoot video while you do that?
I actually don't use my iPhone, so I'm using FaceTime from my Mac.
Okay.
So my phone is not in the in the loop at all right now. And I do that primarily because I want to be able to record our conversation from FaceTime as a backup.
I'm actually in my camera right now, and I just took a picture, but video is explicitly disabled during our FaceTime audio call. Yeah.
Which makes sense.
So that wouldn't work. You could have two iPhones.
You could.
Or to your point, I mean, if the people I'm working with have MacBooks, maybe they could do that.
And the other issue with an iPhone is framing, right? So when I switched to the Sony, I lost the ability to flip the screen around, which was a big problem. And I solved that by having the camera hooked up via USB-C to my computer, where I have Sony's remote software up so I can change all my settings and see the shot right on the computer. With an iPhone, you wouldn't be able to do that. The selfie cam is actually 4K 60p capable now on the new iPhones.
Oh,
so
interesting.
You could shoot it with the selfie camera if you wanted to be able to see what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said for just the simplicity of a phone. If you got an adapter to put it on a tripod, they can see themselves right there in the screen. we could presumably hook up a microphone to the iPhone itself. Have you ever used ones like that?
I have. Yeah, they got little lightning adapters, and you get a little lav mic or something that just clips right in.
I actually just ordered, kind of as a separate thing, but I could use it I could use this test for the same purpose. I ordered today 5 different lightning connected microphones.
Oh, fun!
Just because someone else was wondering like how what's like a cheap iPhone thing we could use or something simple, and so I thought I would just test out a few because I don't want to give someone some advice without having tried a few of these. So I actually got Shure has a few different models, all called the Motive.
Okay. Like
the Shure Motive MV5 is like a little tiny kind of circular condenser microphone that uses a lightning connector. I also got the Shure Motive MV88 and the MV88 Plus, and I guess I'll try them all out and see if any of them do what I need them to do.
Oh, the 5 kind of looks like a baby bottle, or not the baby bottle.
No, it looks kind of like the
Yeti,
blue
right?
Snowball.
Snowball. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. I actually also ordered a Snowball, which is one of the cheapest ones on here. It's a $50 microphone. It's just a plain USB microphone, but apparently you can just use the Lightning to USB adapter that Apple makes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I guess I'll try all of those out. So that's something I could do is if someone did just have their iPhone on a tripod, we could plug in one of these. And they all have cables, so they don't have to sit on the phone. They could come a little bit closer like we're doing.
The MV88 doesn't look like it has a cable.
I think it does. Well, we'll see.
Maybe it does as well.
This is why I ordered several things, because I want to see what comes in the box and what really is going to be the easiest to use.
Yeah. But
also,
we're
I'm
in
wondering if any of
agreement,
these
if
come
you
with
use an iPhone, you would need a separate way to have the conversation, because you're not going to be able to record video.
Yeah. And right now I am plugged. My audio is going directly into my camera through an XLR adapter. But already that's pretty complicated for someone who doesn't know how to use a camera to plug in an XLR adapter. And I don't want to ask them to record their audio separately into an H5 or something. So the idea of having one thing that plugs right into the phone would be nice.
Yeah, my audio setup's a little more complicated. I've got an H4n that is basically just acting as a USB sound card. And then I'm running Audio Hijack on the Mac that is taking the input from the mic and recording it to a file. And it's also recording the FaceTime conversation to a second file. And then outputting that to my one AirPod so I can hear you.
So one of the things that makes this feels so daunting about this request, like how can you make this available to someone else, is we've done over 100 episodes of this podcast. And how many times have we royally screwed up something?
Like less than 5 and more than 3? How many times has it been
more than that to me.
Yeah, maybe it was. Less than 10, more than 5? I don't know. We've definitely screwed up. There's no doubt about it.
Has there at least been a time that each of us has forgotten to record our own audio?
We did that one where I was trying to use my iPhone. I was mobile, and I had a whole microphone set up, and I tested it, and it worked. And when we recorded the actual episode, there was just no sound to the whole thing. Did we just end up scrapping the episode and just saying no episode this week? We didn't redo it, I don't think.
Yeah, maybe we did. Although I feel like almost every time we've had a mistake like that, there was some backup audio.
Right. This specific time, I remember there was not, because I was trying to do it, so.
Right.
Yeah,
maybe we did just scrap it or we shot it again. Even last week, or last month, when I was in France, I had I have it right here, my Asden SGM 250CX microphone, this shotgun microphone, which I like a lot. And when I travel, that's what I bring instead of this a studio microphone. But I didn't realize I had it just a little bit too far away from my mouth, and I didn't realize that this kitchen that I was recording in was actually kind of reverby. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a few people commented on that, and I thought, that's the sort of thing that even now, even hundreds of episodes in, I still will make some mistakes like that, and the audio just isn't as good as usual.
But the audio was fine. I mean, it was perfectly usable. I didn't notice until somebody pointed out. I went, oh, I guess so. But it didn't bother me.
Yeah, it was clear enough, and yeah, it wasn't. There wasn't a lot of background noise or anything, but it was just too much more reverb than you want. And if I just gotten the microphone a little bit closer to my face, I could have lessened that. So, and you know, like you've had exposure problems sometimes and white balance problems sometimes. So I'm just thinking the fewer links in the chain for someone else is probably the better.
iPhone with a attached microphone is sounding pretty good.
And then the last thing really is the lighting setup. I think in an ideal world, they would always shoot this in daylight next to a window, and they wouldn't even need a light.
Yep.
But I don't think that'll be the case. It'll probably be in someone's like home office that's dark. I mean, or they're doing it at night.
Like this. My office is dark. It's nighttime. There's no light coming from my window, and I don't think my lighting is particularly great. It's something I should.
But what light are you
work
using
on
right now? You actually have something.
I do. So I have the ceiling cans on. So there's 1, 2, 3, floodlights in the ceiling. Those are on. I have a stand light that has an upward facing light and a wall facing light. I'm bouncing some light off the wall. And then I have an LED adjustable color temperature light panel that is shining kind of on my face, I guess is the key light.
Yeah. And I'm using, right now I have a Flex LED, a Westcott Flex LED in front of me, but it's completely shielded from me. Like I can't see the LED panel, but it's bouncing off a wall. There's a white wall right next to me. And I'm just bouncing all of that light off the wall to have a really nice soft effect on me. And then I have this one Aperture 120D just putting a bunch of blue light on the wall behind me to kind of create some background definition.
That's probably what I need is a separate light to throw on the background here and add a little fun. But at the moment I don't have that. So
you see so many YouTubers with like some sort of like LED strip or something, like the
light
like
tubes or something. Yeah.
They're doing all sorts of weird color effects around.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Do you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is the closest I've ever gotten to something, like, to me, this is, like, really weird creative lighting, is, like, throwing a bunch of blue on the back wall. It's about as YouTube-y as I've gotten.
And it's interesting that we do combine fairly different looks into one video. Do you like that? Do you dislike that? What are your thoughts on that part?
I like that, I mean, we've tried out a lot of different looks, and actually, I loved my lighting setup last month. When I was on location in France, I used, we talked about this in the episode, I used a lot of light, 2 different lights coming through one kind of diffusion sheet and just made a nice big light source that looked really nice and soft. And then that whole environment I was shooting in I liked. But the current setup that we have, I kind of like that if we're going to do a split screen, I like that there's some juxtaposition between like your more yellow, normal home-looking environment and my more blue, kind of studio-looking environment. Like, if you're going to have 2 different color looks, they might as well be complementary like that.
Oh, yeah. I guess I hadn't thought about that, but that's good. I'm actually
like,
wearing
a yellow shirt. Green. Oh, good.
With words.
I'm actually wearing gold and silver right now.
What else do we need?
Well, that's what I'm wondering is, we're not going to get them to do key light, backlight, fill light. I mean, if anything, there's going to be one light, and it's got to be as simple to use as possible. I almost wonder, I don't know, it'd be kind of a weird look, but I almost wonder if just like a ring light is the right thing to do.
Around the camera?
Yeah.
I think you want it off axis, don't you?
Yeah, probably. I think you're right. I don't even love the idea of them having to like set it up off axis. Like, that already sounds like too much thought.
So what I've got this little LED light panel. It's about that big. It's not a big one at all. And I've got it on one of those Gorilla Pods. So I just wrap it around the light fixture in the room, and it's just hanging off, pointing at me. So it's pretty simple.
Yeah. I mean, I
mean, if you don't want to deal with lighting, probably. I think you shoot during the day with a window. And if you're not going to do that, then you're going to have to buy a light.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be the most powerful light, especially if I mean, I think.
I mean, a light fixture in a room, if you have one of those like flexible ones, those work. I used that for half this podcast until you sent me this light.
Yeah.
So you can make it work. Just doesn't look quite as good.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'd love for people in the comments on YouTube, or you can email us at Griffin at Hey.film or Nick at Hey.film. I'd love to know what other thoughts you might have about how you might replicate this. And then the editing is easy. It's just a split screen. You just send me your footage over the internet.
Through the magic of the internet, it comes to you.
Or let us know if there's anything else we do that you'd want to see replicated. I guess what people seem to like about our podcast is that you and I have known each other for so long. So I think that's what people need is a long history.
Ah, yes. The talent in front of the camera. I'm pretty talented.
That's the most important thing. You need Nick Boatmer. That's really the key
if you want to have a successful podcast, you've got to find a friend who has built up a large YouTube following, and you glob onto that, and it becomes your claim to fame. And that's how I do it. Good.
Should we, before we say goodbye, should we thank our wonderful sponsor?
Let's do it. Hey, Filmmakers is brought to you by Squarespace. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business.
As you know, griffinhammond.com is a Squarespace site, and I use all of the easy templates and drag and drop tools. I mean, if I want to add the YouTube video to Hey.film to the blog, it's as easy as just saying video. Put in the URL and it populates it with the thumbnail and everything I need. I can make photo galleries. I can do mailing list signups. I have that all over my website, and it just goes right to a Google Doc. So everything's very customizable, all the tools I need to build my site and to have a presence that's professional. It's very easy with Squarespace.
Check out squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Griffin to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you, Squarespace. Before we say goodbye, one word of warning for all my Mac users out there, and you as well, Griffin. There's a new version of Macintosh operating system called Mac OS Catalina, or 10.15.
My computer has downloaded it, and it's ready to install, but I haven't done it.
I would hold off a little bit. So more than usual, this operating system is going to break compatibility with software. So you want to be very sure that anything you rely on for your work is going to work. I was a little cavalier. I upgraded and found out moments ago that the software I use to attach to my Sony camera does not work on Catalina. So I quickly pivoted to my Windows machine, which is over here, and got it set up on that. But yeah, I'm out of luck until Sony updates that software. And there's going to be a lot of software like that.
What's that software called? The Sony software?
Imaging Edge.
Okay. And
go.
Do you know the reason why more than usual?
Yeah, it's a little technical, but basically, in this version of Mac OS X, they have completely removed the ability to run 32-bit applications. So there's 32-bit, there's 64-bit. It's been this transition. There's been years and years and years of warning that this is going to happen, but not everyone got the memo. And actually what I'm hearing is a lot of audio plugins haven't been updated to 64-bit. So if you've got audio plugins, make sure you look into that before you upgrade if you rely on some of those.
Yeah, that's a very good tip, and I will hold off. I mean, I figured that's just good practice, like when a new OS comes out, just to wait long enough for the bugs to... But I was thinking about it more from like an Apple removing bugs, not realizing that everyone else has to update their software.
Yep. I think you're wise to normally wait, and this particular release merits even more consideration than normal.
Yeah.
And I'm an idiot who just always updates everything. I was running the iOS 13 betas, and I'm a nerd.
Yeah. But if all I used on a computer was Mac apps like Final Cut Pro 10, I'm probably okay.
Probably.
Yeah. Probably.
But like I know some people like are hanging on to the last version of Adobe Photoshop you could use before you had to start paying for the subscription.
Oh,
That
people are still using that. Wow.
Yeah, well, it's not that old, you know.
Yeah.
It does everything you need to do, and I guess it is 64-bit, but a bunch of like helper apps that have to run alongside it aren't, so it doesn't really work. So,
well, that's like we've talked about previously on the podcast, Adobe Encore, the old Adobe software that makes DVDs. They haven't updated that in a long time. I don't think it's part of Creative Cloud. Like you can download it, but it's not.
It's not supported. Yeah, it's a mess. I've tried to use it. It's hard.
So I'm guessing that's not a 64-bit piece of software.
I would guess not. No.
Yeah.
And so you tell your customers, no, I don't do DVDs anymore. Here's a USB thumbstick.
And you say it's because of Catalina.
Thanks, Apple. All right, my friend. It has been a pleasure. I hope you have a fantastic evening.
And thank you for the PSA.
You're welcome. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye. I was going to say, Walgreens are called something stupid in New York, right?
They're called Duane Reade, yeah.
Why is that? Who cares? Not me.
I mean, I'm sure they were two different companies and then they became one company.
They merged.